Now, on Monday, the Trump administration announced that it was freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard University, one of the country's most elite institutions. The move came after the Harvard president refused to comply with the Trump administration's demands to limit activism on campus, saying that Harvard would, quote, not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Now, for more on the story, let's cross live to our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Fraser Jackson. Fraser, tell us more about Harvard's pushback and how significant it is.
Well, this is Donald Trump's latest crackdown on academic institutions. The U.S. government freezing $2 billion worth of federal funding to Harvard after the university refused to capitulate to demands for greater government oversight. Now, on Friday, the private university received a list of demands from the Trump administration, which the White House says is designed to curb anti-Semitism on campus. Now, the letter shows that the Trump administration wanted to oversee the way that Harvard hires staff as well as admits students and even teaches them as well. Now, among the 10 categories in that letter for changes were calls for Harvard to report students to the federal governments that were deemed, quote, hostile to American values. They were also calls to ensure that each academic department is, quote, viewpoint diverse, and calls for an external government-approved group as well that would audit programs and departments that most fuel anti-Semitic harassment. Well, Harvard pushed back, rejecting the letter, saying that the White House was trying to control the private institution and said, quote, although some of the demands outlined by the government are aimed at combating anti-Semitism, the majority represent direct governmental regulation of the intellectual conditions at Harvard. Now, this comes after Columbia University in New York recently gave in to similar demands from the White House after it threatened $400 million of federal money to the university. But of course, Harvard is the oldest and most wealthy U.S. university. It's worth over $50 billion last year, and Harvard receives around $9 billion of federal funding a year, most of that going to run the hospitals that it operates, and roughly $2 billion or so being spent on research into Alzheimer's and other conditions. Some analysts are saying that this stand that Harvard is taking against the administration could be a turning point for other academic institutions and companies that the White House is trying to influence, such as law firms that Donald Trump has gotten to capitulate, or even media outlets as well.
Fraser, stay with us because I want your analysis on this next story, because meanwhile, U.S. authorities have arrested yet another Palestinian student of Columbia University, this time for his role in protests against the war in Gaza. Mohsen Mahdawi arrived in the United States in 2014 and has held a green card since 2015. He co-founded the Palestinian Student Union with Mahmoud Halil, another Palestinian green card holder who was the first Columbia student to be detained by ICE. On Monday, a district judge ordered the Trump administration not to deport Mohsen Mahdawi, but so far his lawyers say that they do not know where he is. Now, Fraser, if you take together the pressures that we're seeing on American universities and this crackdown on some of the students that have participated in these protests, what is the strategy here by the Trump administration, and what is the ultimate goal?
Well, Trump and other Republicans have long seen academic institutions like Harvard as being breeding grounds for what they call the woke ideology. Now, they accuse them of influencing generations of young people and leading to things like last year's student-led pro-Palestine protests, which received massive media attention. And now some of those people, as you said, are involved in those protests, are being targeted by the Trump administration. So on Monday, that co-founder of Columbia University's Palestinian student group was arrested by immigration agents. It's worth noting that he is a green card holder and was actually in the process of completing the final steps towards becoming a U.S. citizen. He was actually inside a federal building for a naturalization interview when he was arrested. And his co-founder of that Palestinian student movement, Mahmoud Halil, who co-founded, like I said, the movement, has also been arrested and is fighting deportation. His case also receiving widespread attention. But these two men are not alone. The United States says says that they have cracked down on numerous foreign students, including the cancellation of 300 student visas, many of them revoked without any kind of explanation. And the government also says that it's reviewing the social media of foreign students, looking for what it calls anti-Semitic activity. But as I said, the universities more generally are also being looked at by the Trump administration, with federal funding being pulled in some cases, such as in the case of Harvard. But basically, the government here trying to get more control over the higher education and higher learning institutes, but also trying to crack down on anything that it sees as dissent among the student body as well.
Thank you very much, Fraser. Fraser Jackson there reporting from Washington, D.C.